I think we'll begin. Hello, welcome to this Google Hangout sponsored by the American Library Association and the Office of Information Technology Policy. My name is Renee Hobbs. I'm a professor and founding director of the Harrington School of Communication and Media at the University of Rhode Island, interim director of the graduate program in Library and Information Studies, and I'm here tonight with a really exciting panel of educators and librarians because our topic is creating a culture of learning. And so tonight we're going to be sharing with you a little bit about our own learning curves, how we've managed to keep up with the latest new technologies, appreciate the relationship between play and learning, and in general, find ways to help our colleagues and our friends and the people in our lives with the powerful new tools that digital literacy affords us. So tonight I'd like to welcome Carolyn Habig. She's the technology coordinator at Adlai Stevenson High School. Say hi, Carolyn, and say welcome to the folks who are watching us live tonight.
Welcome. We're so excited that you're joining us, and we hope that later on to hear some of your questions and ideas.
Wonderful. Next up is Jamie Hollier. She's the project manager at the Public Library Association. She spearheaded the BTOP initiative for the Colorado State Library. Say hello, Jamie, and introduce yourself to us.
Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me fine, and I'm joined by Scarlett Johansson, or at least her cutout tonight.
So glad that you're both joining us. Next up is Gwyneth Jones. She's better known as the daring librarian. She's a middle school librarian at Murray Hill Middle School in Laurel, Maryland, and she's on the ISTE Board of Directors. Welcome. Say welcome to everyone who's watching us tonight, Gwyneth.
Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm joined by my plushie zombie.
Adorable. Next up is Bobby Newman, better known as the Librarian by Day. She founded the Libraries and Transliteracy Project, which is where many of us learned about the deep and important connections between the new literacies and the library community. Bobby, can you welcome the many viewers who are tuned in to us, watch us tonight?
Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to my kitchen. I can't wait to hear about the interesting things everyone comes up with.
And finally up is Anu Vedantam. She's the director of the Weigel Information Commons at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. She's recently completed a doctoral dissertation looking at gender issues in video content creation and spends her time helping faculty and students make use of new kinds of digital media tools in the context of her work as an academic librarian. Anu, can you welcome the many, over 100 people who are watching us this evening?
Hi, Renee and everybody. I'm really happy to be part of this group. I know I'm going to learn a lot from everyone.
All right, so let's begin by talking a little bit about how we ourselves are involved in the learning curve when it comes to digital media and technology. Anu, can you share a little bit about something that you're engaged in experimenting or exploring or learning right now?
Sure. I can talk a little bit. When you sent us the questions, Renee, I spent a lot of time worrying about what to talk about. And then I ended up choosing WordPress, which is not actually such a glamorous technology, but I felt it was a really good story in terms of how we use it and how we feel it's made a difference for us. So I'm going to try screen sharing, which makes me nervous, but we will see how that works. I'm going to start by sharing, let me find it. I'm not sure if you're able to see that. Okay, are you able to see the screen?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So this is a graphic that shows all the tools that we have been using here at University of Pennsylvania Libraries. You can see there's a lot of them on here, and every year we find that this gets out of date, so then we make a new one, and every year we lose a couple of tools and add a couple of tools. A lot of the tools we use, we find out from our faculty and our students. So I feel like that's the fun part for us, is it's also a way to have a connection with the people that we we interact with every day. So 2 years ago, Peter DeCherney, who's a professor here, he's on our faculty advisory group, he came to me and he said, you know, Anu, I really think you should have a blog and a podcast. And I thought, you know, that sounds like a great idea. It sounds like a lot of work. I have a lot of urgent things I need to do. But generally, when Peter gives me a suggestion, I at least try to play. And so I made myself an account on WordPress. And what I found is that it was really a lot of fun. And before I knew it, I was playing with different themes and having fun with the colors and being jealous of other people's blogs. And then I went to our lab coordinator and I said, you know, I think this is something that's worth going a little further with. And what he did that I thought made a big difference is he took some pictures that we had already, and I'll show you what he did. He just took pictures that we had around the Commons, and in Photoshop he stitched them all together, and he made a banner for our WordPress blog. And there was something very powerful about just having a graphic where we could see our own faces that made us kind of take that next step. And before we knew it, we started writing posts, and we really wanted to have everybody around here participate in the writing. We have a lot of graduate students that work here, so I asked each of them to just write about whatever they wanted to write about. And a blog is a great way for graduate students to show what they know as a way of establishing themselves. So one of the most popular posts we've had, actually, was written by a grad student. She's now a law librarian in Virginia, and she compared Bing Maps and Google Maps. Very simple idea. She took the library building, she plotted it on both the technologies, and then she explained why some ways Bing was better and some ways Google Maps was better, and it's had several thousand people read it. So something that she did for us has now had a life of its own. And I'll end with what I feel like the big advantages of this way of doing things, and I'm going to show one more image, hopefully successfully. So far, so good. So this is what our blog has looked like. We started it in April 2011, and we love the fact that so many people read it. One of the things I think is very powerful is that the technology is so fun to use that we find ourselves writing blog posts about all kinds of stuff. We had a student who was celebrating the end of his dissertation. That became a blog post. We got a new color printer, and we made a post about that. Before we had WordPress, what would happen is that the process of updating our website would be so painful that no one would want to do it. So in the staff meetings, we'd all look at each other and say, oh, do you want to do that? No, I don't really want to do that. And actually, it would never happen. And the beauty of WordPress is it's actually so much fun that we all just end up writing stuff for it without having to have a lot of planning or thinking, and I think the fun part of it has been what makes it really powerful. I feel like it's not a random thing anymore. It's actually something that changes the way my organization interacts with the people on campus, and so
Wow.
I think it's been transformative.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. That's really helpful. Now let's hear from Gwyneth Jones. Gwyneth, what's one fun thing that you're learning right now as part of your own process of being a lifelong learner when it comes to digital media and technology?
Well, I'm on a less than great computer right now. Otherwise, I'd be sharing my slides, but they are on the Daring Librarian Presents wiki page. So if you want,
Uh-oh.
want to see the gorgeous. Did you lose my voice?
We lost you for a minute, but that's okay. You're back.
Oh, no. I wrote a blog post a while back called Wikipedia Isn't Wicked. And I've been trying to teach my teachers that it's okay to use Wikipedia. Can you hear me? Yes? Yep. Okay. And I go over with them using a comic tutorial I made showing how to look at Wikipedia, what they offer, the references they use, the resources, and for things like QR codes or hashtags or anything pop culture or, cutting edge technology, our kids and our researchers are not going to find that information in our databases in the World Book Encyclopedia and so on. So it's been a really fun challenge to try to win over my teachers who've been avoiding Wikipedia for years and try to get them to sip that Kool-Aid a little bit and give it a try. And my kids, of course, love it. So that's been an exciting kind of challenge to try to change over perceptions that Wikipedia is a wicked, bad, don't use it kind of thing. I say you can use it, but don't cite it.
Love it. Thank you so much for sharing, because Wikipedia is fun to use and it has lots of layers, and we really have to learn what it's good for and how we can use it wisely.
And
Carolyn,
it's 85% as accurate as Britannica. Just had to put that in there.
Cool.
All right.
That's pretty cool. Carolyn, tell us a little bit about what you're learning now when it comes to digital media literacy.
Well, I'm learning a ton because I'm actually in a new role right now where I'm working with adult learners and also in their classrooms. So, I still get to interact with young people. But one of the things that I'm learning a lot about and really trying hard to refine, and I know it's going to be an ever ongoing process anyways, as technology changes, as what we do changes, but one thing I'm really looking at is someone who works with adult learners, how can I, should I say, best model the types of teaching strategies, thinking strategies, reflective strategies, as I work with them, that I would like them to then bring back to their classroom. So even to give a more concrete example, one thing that I'm trying really hard to do is, like, when we do, say, iPad professional learning programs, I try to think of it in terms of, like, how can I organize the material so my educators really kind of get the feel for what it's like to use that device as a student would, and as a teacher would, or an instructor would. So one of the things I'm doing with that is, trying to organize material on iTunes U for them, trying to make it so that the professional development can be more ongoing, not just ending whenever our time together ends. And I'm really exploring how different technologies can help do that. So iTunes U is like one example, but more exciting, I've actually been loving Google Hangout for working with not only educators in my building, we're in a really big building, so it could be during school hours or after, or working with other colleagues and people in my professional networks across the nation. And so another thing is really looking at, what are the tools that are evolving and available, and how do they help us to really, collaborate and work with people in different ways. And also then when it comes to, having ongoing conversations, it's also, I find it interesting to think about what tools are out there and how, say, tools such as Google Hangout, I can't even talk, can help us to really keep our conversations ongoing. And for me, that's also what I find to be really engaging and how I can learn more. And actually, even just yesterday, I was a part of a Google Hangout with some people who are at the Midwest Google Summit, and I'm finding accidentally that it's actually becoming a really great way in which I learn, in which I can facilitate others in learning, and really kind of think about how do we model instruction, collaboration in reflection.
One of the reasons why I'm really intrigued by that comment, Caroline, is that I think sometimes when we think about our learning and our play with digital media and digital tools, we think of it as kind of a solitary thing, that I have to kind of do this on my own and I have to make time in my busy day to sit down at the computer. But what you're describing is a profoundly social kind of learning experience where you're with a team, where you're engaged in a social activity, and I think that's a really important component of what makes this kind of learning so much fun. Bobby, can you talk to us a little bit about your own play and learning adventure at the moment, something that you've been learning, something that you are learning that's capturing your attention and your imagination right now?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and confess that I had to learn how to use Google Plus and Google Hangout to do this webinar presentation that we're doing right now. Like a lot of people, my time is finite, and I just have not been able to add Google Plus into sort of my regimen and my daily routine. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, I'm studying, I'm grading quizzes, and it's like one more social network to join. And I confess this because I feel like as somebody who's on this panel that I should know all of the social networks and be an expert in them because I'm a digital literacy person. But I just felt overwhelmed by adding Google Plus, and there may be some people out there who remember when I sort of dropped out of it. I actually deleted my account, and so in order to be involved with this presentation or this discussion we're having tonight, I had to reactivate my Google account, and then I've forced some friends and colleagues into hanging out on Google Plus with me a couple times so that I could figure out how it works and understand, and make sure the camera angle was right and that kind of thing. So I'm just going to confess to being the person who was not an expert on Google Hangouts before we decided to do it here, and that I had to learn how to use it in order to do this. So.
I think it's nice that you're fessing up to it, and I think it's really important for us to help all our viewers to know that a big important part of creating a culture of learning is being strategic and planful and making choices about what we do want to invest in. And we're grateful for you for tonight for stepping into the world of Google Plus and exploring it with us. Jamie, tell us a little bit about where your learning curve is at right now when it comes to digital media and technology.
All right, great. I'm going to actually talk about something I'm relearning. So long time ago, when I was doing my first undergrad, I was in graphic design classes. And then I went to the Colorado State Library. I was working there for a couple years, and I made a ton of infographics and resources for them. And I did that using Illustrator and Photoshop, the Creative Suite. But I had a really old version, and working for the state, we didn't have any money to get a new version, so I've been using a really old version until a couple months ago. And I think I went from CS3 to the newest version, and there's a huge learning curve, and everything changed, and I'm starting over again, and I've realized I also work for a company that does web design and development and marketing stuff, and we have some interns, and I've been going to the interns a lot and saying, hey, so show me how to do this thing. So I guess the thing that's been really helpful for me is just learning. And so, I mean, we all know it's okay to not know things because we're all digital literacy providers, but it's different when you experience it yourself. And it's refreshing to be like, oh, right, that's what it's like to be like, this should be really simple, and I can't figure it out. And that's been really helpful and really useful. And I've also learned it's totally okay to be a hack, because I hacked my way through some things and then went to the person and said, this is the way I did it. They're like, oh, that's fine. It's not a big deal. So it's totally fine to be a hack. It's totally fine to not know what you're doing and to relearn.
I think that's a wonderful point, and I think a big part of our own learning curve is like how we tap into what other people know and how we sort of take advantage of that. I see there's a question from Twitter, and we want to be responsive to the many people who are following us tonight on our Twitter at hashtag Digilit12, DIGILIT 12. Caroline, can you talk about how you get adult learners to sign up quickly to use what's GH, Marika?
Google Hangout.
Google Hangouts. So how do you get adult learners to sign up quickly to use Google Hangouts, Caroline? Where is she? How come we're not hearing her? She's muting.
Sorry. Oh my gosh. I've gone crazy. Okay.
Start again.
Okay, so when it comes to getting adult learners involved in anything, whether it's Google Hangout or even just saying, I want to learn more about the iPad I've been given by our school. I think a big part of it is starting voluntary and seeing where people's interests are. It's about having conversations with actual adults and teachers and seeing where they're at, what are their interests. And then what I find is when you start with their initial questions or ideas that they have or things that are currently going on in their classroom, it leads to talking about, how do we take that further, or how do we work together? And to be more specific to the question or the aspect about Google Hangout, it becomes a way of how we can communicate. And through that, which is really fascinating, because everyone's time, people even are saying it here, your time is valuable, your resources are valuable. And what we're finding, or I'm finding is what I should say, and the people I'm working with, is that, learning and maximizing these tools that are free and very easy to, we think very easy to use, or we figure out how you can embed all the different apps together, like Google Docs, screen sharing, those basic features really have helped us to be more productive. So one, I'd say it has to start, just intrinsically and voluntary, but then also making it presenting it as a way to be more efficient. And then people really get interested. And it's been pretty exciting. And we even use it during school because we're in a huge building. We have 2 connected buildings. We got 4,000 kids. It's a big place. And even at work, it's been a really productive, unique way to work. And then share our work with others.
I think.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's certainly the case that many people now have the laptop with the built-in microphone, with the built-in webcam that allows them to participate in tools like Google Hangouts. But you know what? Some of the most interesting learning experiences that I've had with digital media come from actually incidentally observing other people using tools and me sort of looking over their shoulder going, ooh, cool, what's that? And I want to share with you something that I saw somebody use at a conference once. And now it's one of my favorite tools. See this right now? Can you see my screen? Mm-hmm. Oh, cool. I don't know how many of you are using Tweetdeck, but it is one of my favorite free applications. I've been exploring the use of Twitter as a research tool, and Tweetdeck is a really powerful free download software that is so easy to use. Here's how it works. I identify the topics that I care about. Like, for instance, I'm monitoring this one right now, Digilit 12, and I'm seeing all the many people who are participating in our conversation through Twitter. And I'm also following the topics of news literacy, media literacy, digital literacy, youth media, information literacy, and of course I'm checking out what people are saying about me. And what's cool about Tweetdeck is that I can, here's the information literacy, here's what's been posted about information literacy. And the reality of it is people like sharing the cool stuff they find. And so here we see a post from Kenley Neufeld, right? Who's sharing an article, Academic Libraries, Information Literacy, and the Value of Our Values. And I find that it's almost like I'm tapping into this collective intelligence of a whole lot of people who are passionate about some of the same things that motivate my curiosity. So Tweetdeck is one of those tools, one of those really simple, powerful tools for sharing that just captures my imagination. And so I wanted to share that. I wanted to share that with you. Does anybody else have an experience or a tool where you've learned something by sharing with others, or by others sharing with you? Who'd like to tell us a story about that?
I can talk about that one if you want me to. I have 2 examples that I can give with tools that I've learned by sharing with others. One of them, so earlier I was talking about using Creative Suite for making infographics and other things, and I've been doing a little bit of presenting and sharing out and educating with others on how they can create infographics to demonstrate the impact of their libraries. But it's not that everyone can afford Creative Suite or even learn how to use it. So I've been learning some of the free tools like Infogram, and then there are a bunch of other ones, and I can share some of them out. But Infogram's my favorite, and I learned that so that I could help others have a free tool for making infographics for their library, and it was really great because I was like, wow, for some of the stuff I do, I should save myself a lot of time and use this. And then also, so I'm in the office space I'm in is a new office that I'm working out of. We just moved in about a month ago, and it had to be completely redone. So new floors, some new walls, new paint colors, all sorts of stuff. And I had been on Pinterest, but had not really used it that much. And then I realized I wanted to talk to the 20 people that were going to be sharing this office space with us and say, hey, here are some ideas for some floors and some paint colors and some other things, and let's talk about this. And Pinterest was a great way to do that, to just put together collections and have people comment and share and say this is the image and the space we want for to work in.
Wow, thanks so much for sharing. That's a cool way to use Pinterest. Who has another experience of sharing something you've learned by teaching something, or someone teaching you, or learning from someone else? Carolyn, and then Gwyneth.
So I've been doing a lot with my teachers lately, and with Google Sites, and more specifically using it as a way to create a site where they organize a lesson, a project, an activity, and then we make it into a template that their students then actually grab that template, and then really you have the opportunity for a student to show their work in terms of a process all in one place. And that's been really powerful because you can capture a lot of the learning, because Google Sites allows you to put it, use different mediums. You can embed videos, photos, so you can capture all those types of artifacts in one nice place instead of just getting a final product. But as I'm working with teachers and I'm showing them how we can use this and how we can use templates, one thing that I learned, and I think in some ways I know in some ways this goes back to what I was saying before about modeling, is what's interesting is that I'm finding that when one teacher, when she and I share, this idea that we came up with for a project and how we were going to use Google Sites and create a template with the rest of her content team, teachers who normally would not have ventured into doing that type of project, or even thought about or would not want to use Google Sites to begin with, we're finding that that's actually a way to support other teachers who may not feel perhaps as confident with the technology, and also a way to model different instructional strategies that maybe they wouldn't have embraced as readily before. So one thing I'm learning is that Google Sites and creating templates isn't just a good thing to help kids, but it's also helping to support other educators and adults. And that's something that I'm finding to be really exciting right now.
Wow, that is so terrific. In the chat area, Caroline, will you share a link with us that can help us see more about how templates work for you and your teachers? Now, Gwyneth, I know you're up to share with us a little bit about something you've learned by teaching something to someone or learning from someone.
Well, thank you. It's always a really great challenge to teach my teachers, and I enjoy that. But mostly the kids teach me the most. And I recently wrote a blog post called The Care and Feeding of the Reluctant Technology User. And because my computer's sort of, this is like my oldest one in my house, we'll get into that later, what happened. I'm going to show you through this, but you can go to my blog and see this blog post about the care and feeding of the reluctant technology user, and I go through 8 different steps of that. And one of them, I confess that I used to be really good. Now, Renee, I'm only seeing you because of the ambient sound here. I used to be really good at iMovie. And then I taught my kids how to do it, and they got awesome, even better at it than I did, of course, because that's what kids do. And I got lazy because as they were the ones doing the iMovie and editing it, I lost my chops. And then iMovie had to come out with a new version. And by that time, I got out of practice with it. So at the beginning of this year, my principal, 2 days before he wanted something, God bless him, his inventive mind, wanted me to come up with an iMovie music video to show at back to school night in 2 days. And I had to shoot the footage for it and organize all the people, and it was really exciting, except for my skills were not back to where they used to be as fast, and the kids were busy, you know, the first couple of weeks of school, so I couldn't pull kids out of class to do it like I usually can, you know, towards the end of the school year. So I had to call out to some friends to help teach me how to get back to iMovie again, and that all goes back to where show and tell. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Take small steps. Think, pair, share. Have a friend to help you learn these things. I needed a friend for that. And make house calls. Don't always have people come to your office to help learn stuff. Go to them and let the kids lead. And honestly, the kids leading is the best thing, and of course, praise them. So with a little bit of that, I finally struggled through, and we made the music video, and it's out on YouTube if you want to see it. And we Frankensteined and mixed and mashed some things together, and it would have been perfect if we only had some Gangnam Style dancing.
Well, everything is better with some Gangnam Style dancing. Let's be honest. That's certainly the case. And one of the things that is a really important theme, as Gwyneth points out, is for us to have fun and to learn from our students, from our colleagues, from our peers. But that's going to look different in different library settings. It's going to look different in an academic library than it's going to look in a public library, than it's going to look in a school library, media, or technology center. Who'd like to share something that you've learned by teaching someone else or by learning from someone else? Someone we haven't heard from yet. Anu.
So I had a tough time picking what to talk about because we offer workshops on so many topics. So I decided to take on something hard, which is actually Microsoft Excel. So I find it's really easy to teach the glamorous stuff like Pinterest. Pinterest is a whole lot of fun to teach because you set people out on Google Images, they find a ton of pictures they like and they're happy, and before long they're just showing off to each other what they've found. It works very easily with certain things, but one of the things I've really enjoyed teaching, and I keep trying to redo it, is Excel pivot tables. So I want to talk about that a little bit. So the reason I teach Excel pivot tables is because it's a really useful daily skill. It's completely not glamorous. It's completely not something that you set out saying, oh, I'm going to learn Excel pivot tables, which actually makes it more fun to teach because I have to spend a lot more time making it relevant to the people that have shown up that day. So one of the things I found that's really interesting is to come up with a story on how something that's a boring tool can actually be turned into something that's more interesting. So I come up with a story, you know, I'm running a business and I'm trying to make a decision about where I want to open the next store. You know, I'm trying to decide what are the interventions that would make improvements in the math scores in my school, something like that. And then I come up with the data to give them a before and an after. And the part I found that's really interesting is how much fun people have showing off to each other the stuff they've just learned. I think there's nothing as much fun as when one person finds something out that they didn't know, and they also think the person next to them doesn't know yet. And they turn to their person next to them and say, guess what I just found? And it's hard to do that with Excel, but I think it also makes it more rewarding when it works. So I've had a lot of fun kind of coming up with ways to put more fun into tools that are actually basically fundamental daily use tools. Back to you, Renee.
Wow, thank you so much. That's actually a really great example, because it's true that when people feel that sense of discovery, that's when they really engage with the creativity involved in learning anything new. So who haven't we heard from? Bobby or Jamie, tell us a little bit about some experience you've had teaching or learning from someone or with someone in terms of your own practices in mastering, creating a culture of learning and promoting that spirit and energy of lifelong learning when it comes to digital media. That's Jamie or Bobby.
Pick one of us.
All right, Jamie.
All right, I can totally talk about this. This is kind of a rough connection, but it's something I was hoping to actually be able to talk about. And I think that when you're trying to foster people learning technology and digital literacy, it stems back to this idea of fostering a culture of learning. And I think that we have to embrace this idea that it's interdisciplinary. So one of the things that I really learned recently, I was presenting for a Denver Startup Week, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, and about culture. And I was sitting on a panel, and we realized this was all tech companies. All of us were tech people, and we all realized that we had something from totally outside of tech that was valuable to us and our organization that informed what we did. So there was someone that learned from the music industry, someone that took restaurants and hospitalities, and they brought that into what they do. And personally, I have a background in art and art history and metalsmithing and other things, and those definitely inform the way that I learn. And so one of my big aha moments is that teaching people tech doesn't always have to be about tech.
That's a big aha. Bobby, I know that you've had some fun teaching and learning about digital media and technology. Can you tell us a story about what you've learned about yourself or about your learners from the process of creating and sharing with digital media?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to take away or to remember is this idea that, when you're the person in front of the classroom, or you're the person leading the teaching or the training or whatever, or on this side of the camera, that you're perceived as an expert, even if you don't maybe feel that you're an expert, and that we, as a culture, tend to sort of defer to experts, and we think that they know more than us about what we're talking about. And one of the things I think is really important when we're sharing and creating that is that really sort of be wary of experts, to keep that in mind, that we can all learn something from each other. And one of the things I often do is try to get the group to start sharing just anything that you've learned, anything new you've learned this week. I don't care if it was like how to program the TV remote, something to do with your computer, that kind of thing. One is that you'll be surprised what you learn from each other, and that creates that openness, and that we're more willing to learn new things from each other. For some reason, I cannot figure out how to reprogram the clock on my car radio. Like, this is the technology that has defeated me. I'm not kidding. And I like to tell those stories when I'm talking in front of a group, because it's like, hey, look, I may know about this, but I know nothing about my car, obviously. And I do not understand. My battery died because I left my lights on. I cannot, for the life of me, figure out how to reprogram the clock on my car. And I'm like, really? This is the technology that defeats me. And so instead, I've learned to add 3 hours and 45 minutes. Somehow that's easier than actually figuring out. I'm going to have to get the owner's manual out. But I think my point is that just remember that we've all got something that we can learn from each other, and that everybody in the group has something they know more about than you do.
I think that is an absolutely powerful and insightful comment, and I think it brings us back to this theme about play, and about how when we take time to play, and when we take time to explore and discover, then in a way we're satisfying our own kind of selfish interests, but at the same time we're sort of building our knowledge and skills, and we have to realize that each one of us is on a different kind of journey that way. And I think it's a really good point to realize that we shouldn't really set up expert novice hierarchies. We're all learning from each other when it comes to this game. So for our final round of questions, I'd like to ask everybody to talk a little bit about one thing that you've been playing with recently that you really want to share with the rest of the folks in the library community who are watching us this evening. And we're so grateful to the many people who are tuning in and building their own knowledge and skills by watching a group of creative and imaginative women who like exploring digital media for teaching and learning. So who'd like to share something that you just really enamored with, that is something you want to share because it's so much fun and it's so cool, and you want to play with it? Jamie, I see your hand is raised. Tell us.
I just recently learned about Unroll Me, and I don't know if you guys know about it, but it has changed my life for the better.
Whoa.
And I think it will change yours too. So it's unroll, UNROLL.me. And you go in and you put in and it works for Gmail. They're working on the others, but it only works for Gmail. And what it is, you put in your email address, and it takes all of those subscriptions that you're in, so your all those different RSS feeds and newsletters and all that stuff, and it puts it in one email that you get once a day.
And why is that so great? Why is that so great?
Because instead of waking up in the morning to an inbox that says 120 new messages, I wake up to one that says like 5.
Whoa.
And I can reach zero inbox. I can manage my time. Those things are no longer filling up my feed. Now that's there when I need to go to it and when I'm ready to go to it. But my email is really mostly about the things that are from people or from organizations that I need to respond to. And it's super easy to unsubscribe. It's free. It's awesome. It will improve the quality of your life, I believe. And if you want to sign up for more stuff, like more newsletters and things, you don't feel as bad about it.
Whoa. I don't know if anybody can top that, because that is a practical example of something that will, in fact, make your managing your email much better. Right after this event, I'm signing up for that for sure.
And I gotta say, you never know where things are going to come from, because I learned about that in an airline magazine while I had to turn off my device while we were taking off.
All right, Gwyneth, I know you're always learning something new. Tell us what you're up to, my friend.
Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, first I want to alleviate some worry or fear about having to have that social media guilt that you're not into everything. And when Bobby tells that she just said, enough with you, Google Plus, I kicked you to the curb, reminds me that I also broke up last summer, and I'm still a little sad about it, and I don't want to get too personal, but I broke up with Facebook. And we had been, seeing other people, and of course I've been with Twitter for a while on the side, and I really make Twitter my main, squeeze, if I have to really be honest. And then when Google Plus came out, I jumped onto that because, I just feel that Facebook was a little too slutty with my personal information. I don't know if I should say that, but I also feel like, there are privacy issues. So I want to have you think about instead of the social media buffet, I want you to think of a social media dim sum. And I'm going to show this picture. You can get it off my Flickr. Ha ha ha. And it's like a little dim sum plate.
That is adorable.
Take one small plate. Yeah, and if you don't like it, you're allowed to put it back and not finish it. There's no guilt trips here, people. And the other thing that I'm really excited about is PicMonkey.com. Now, the people who ran Picnic on Flickr, who were very popular, and when Google bought Picnic, they destroyed it. The people who created it made PicMonkey, and PicMonkey is made of when. And by that I mean it is awesome. Now I'm going to try to screen share, and if you lose me, well, at least we're on the last question. But this is so powerful. I want you to try it out. It has you almost don't need Photoshop anymore. And they are adding new things all the time. You can add mascara to your pictures. You can lose weight, whiten your teeth, get rid of a blemish, and add text. I mean, it really has everything that you would ever need to really, for the most part, on a daily basis to... Here we go. Oh, I'm feeling very bold here. I'm going to share this selected window.
Oh.
And I'm going to lean back so hopefully it won't explode.
Someone anonymous.
Uh-oh. So if you haven't, I do urge you to give it a really good shot because it's awesome. And you know what? This is taking too long, so I'm going to cancel it out. My mojo on this 5-year-old laptop is not feeling it. So hopefully I can cancel it out. But honestly, PicMonkey is made to win. Follow them on Twitter. It's called PicMonkey app on Twitter. Another cool thing that I have to bring up is that if you ever don't know what somebody's Twitter is, just Google their name, the company, space, Twitter, and you'll find it. A lot of people are like, who's that? What's that Twitter account? And I always do that, and that's a really quick way to get in contact with anybody you want on the social medias.
Thanks so much for introducing us to a bunch of cool new tools and a nice metaphor, the metaphor of the dim sum plate. The idea that when it comes to all these new tools and technologies, we can feel free to try one or more, to sample it, and to put it down if we don't like it. Anu and Bob, tell us a little bit about one thing you want our listeners to go out and try and play with right when they're done with this program tonight, because you're enjoying it so much or find it so useful or having fun with it right now as a learner yourself.
Do you want me to go, Renee?
Sure.
Okay, so I think I really agree with the idea that you should feel free to play with stuff and not feel like you have to have it for the rest of your life. So I like this idea of trying tools and then throwing them away when they stop working. So the tool that I'm going to suggest you try out is called Storify. It's storify.com. And what I like about it is it allows you to make a story out of social media. We first learned about it from our career services office, and they're using it in a really interesting way. They have this program called Day in the Life of, where they ask alums from the University of Pennsylvania to pick one day in their life and just tweet all day long. People, take pictures of their breakfast, pictures of their lunch, whatever they're doing. And the idea is that the Penn students get a real sense of what happens if you are in this profession all day long. What Storify lets you do is you can collect tweets and Facebook and Flickr and just about any social media that you like. And you can create the narrative with that stuff as your raw material. So you might quote a book, or you might quote a magazine or a journal article. This is the same idea, except your raw material is the social media that people are putting out now. So if you go to the Storify website, you'll see they have a really nice one about there's several election ones you can see, and then there's a nice one about Hurricane Sandy. We've been using it very little, but we feel like it has a ton of potential, because you could imagine in a writing class, you could have people learn how to script. And you can certainly do political issues. When the Arab Spring happened, there were so many tweets flying all around us. If we could have made a Storify and captured some of that, it also archives. So I would say if you've had a chance and you enjoy social media, definitely try out Storify.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. Bobby, something that's on you, that's capturing your imagination right now that you want the viewers of this Google Hangout, the many people who've tuned in to find out what librarians who are creating a culture of learning are learning, what's one thing you'd like them to try or explore?
Well, I'm going to kick it a little old school, I think, for this one, because I'm not doing as much digital creation, but this tool saved my bacon twice this week, and it's only Wednesday. If you're not using Dropbox for your file syncing across your platforms, you really, really should be. For those of you who aren't familiar with Dropbox, it's an online service. You get, I think, 2 gigs of space for free, which, if you're saving text files and stuff, really is a lot of space. And there's plenty of ways to earn free space from them. But if you download and install the software, anything you save on, say, in that Dropbox folder on your computer, then automatically just gets synced to another computer where you've got that software installed. But more importantly than all of that, everything saved in that folder is also available via the web or, say, on the app on your smartphone. And I got all the way to campus on Wednesday, which is like a 45-minute drive, or not Wednesday, Monday. I'm confused about what day it is. Got all the way to campus on Monday, which is a 45-minute drive, and realized I did not take my laptop. I did not have a computer. And I all of my stuff is saved in Dropbox, thank goodness. And so between my phone and then being able to log on to someone else's computer and get on the Dropbox website, I could download and print out what I needed to, and I sort of was able to survive, the day without having my laptop with me, which I really thought was unlikely when I got there. And then today our network was down, and the wireless network was down. The hardwired network was working, and so I had the same problem that I had. I did have my laptop, but I couldn't get to the files because they had not synced, and so I was able to get on another computer and get access to them. So I know it's a little old school and not as fun or sexy as some of the other things, but I think it saved my bacon a couple times. So.
Bobby, you have my vote with Dropbox too. I'm in the same boat as you.
Okay, so this whole group likes Dropbox, and of course Anu's mentioned Box.com and Cloud On. There's lots and lots of these cloud computing tools. Now, Caroline, every time we've talked this week, you've got another amazing thing to share. Take us home, sweetie. What's the one tool you're having a lot of fun with that you want to make sure people in our audience know about and get a chance to explore?
Okay, the tool I want to talk about is Google Story Builder. It's very new, even so new that when I was telling them about it on, Monday, that I realized later that it had only come out 15 hours before I was talking about it. Now, one thing I like to preface this with is that it is, stick with the fun theme and have fun, play, and don't be afraid to try to think about how things that may not seem to fit, right away with either, education or the library, but give yourself a moment to play and then put those pieces together. I want to actually show you an example of what I very first made with this tool, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to show this to my boss. My boss is the Director of Curriculum, Instruction, and Assessment. Very, very serious, right? You have to say it like that. And he loves it when I say that to him all the time. I'm glad he has a good sense of humor. So I was like, I got to tell Mark about this. And the best way to do it, to tell him about this tool, is to use this tool. So I'm going to screen share right now about how to use Google Story Builder. Can you hear? Okay. Mm-hmm. I got to use the external sound. So give me a sec to... Okay. Okay, everyone see?
Yes.
Yep.
Looks good.
Okay. Now remember, Mark is my boss, the the Director of Curriculum, Assessment, and Instruction. And yes, that's out of order. But anyways.
Okay. Caroline, that is awesome. It's a tool that lets people turn collaborative writing into video screencasting. Is that right? How long did it take for you to figure out how to learn it and make that little video?
Seconds.
All right. Roundtable for anybody who wants to share right now. This is a 5-minute countdown. What piece of advice to the folks who are out there watching us, something you want them to think about as they try to create a culture of learning in their own libraries?
I guess I'll start by just saying to celebrate the small things that go well, because if you have enough small things that go well, then there's a momentum for something larger.
Nice. Who's next?
I'll go. Just remember, you don't have to know it all. You just have to know how to find it. And we're librarians, right? So we're really good at finding information and at finding how to do things. So you don't have to know it all. You just need to know how to find it.
Wonderful. Who's next? A little gem of wisdom and some insight you'd like to share. Caroline, then Bobby.
Don't forget to model what you're doing, for other people you work with. The best thing to do is not just stand there and say, this is good, this is great, but actually live it and show it. And if someone isn't too familiar with it, take the time to make the personal connections and do it together. I think that's huge.
Super. Bobby.
I think one of the biggest things when you're trying to get people on board with technology or digital tools, especially reluctant learners, is to remember to meet them where they live mentally. That a good story, an emotional connection can often bring people on board the way statistics can't or brute force can't. That if you can connect with them in a personal way about something they care about, if you can gather those stories and share them, that often helps bring people on board and makes them excited about it, which is awesome.
All right, Gwyneth.
I really believe that it's good to share shamelessly, and that if you create it, other people might want to see it. We're also darn hesitant to share because it's going to seem like showing off. But if we could help a first-year librarian or somebody new at the job, and we already have it tucked away, you have to put it out there. And remember, make it Creative Commons, and the power is the ability to do good things for others. So share shamelessly, make all your stuff Creative Commons, and give it away, because as my mom really was right, the more you give, the more you really do give back. Don't tell her I said it, though.
Any last words before I make my closing remarks? All right. I can't tell you how much fun it is to spend time with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 incredibly smart and talented women who are librarians and educators and activists and digital media specialists. And I want to offer my great thanks to Marika Visser and Lara Clark for organizing this Google Hangout and making it possible for us to have a conversation about digital literacy. We are really grateful for the Task Force on Digital Literacy for sponsoring this event, and for the Office of Information Technology Policy at the American Library Association for making this whole event possible. I want to call your attention to an event that's happening on December 11th. It's our next conversation, and we're going to be bringing together a talented team of librarians and educators and scholars to talk about this topic: assessing digital literacy, outcomes, and impact. As more and more of us are developing programs where we're bringing digital literacy competencies to patrons in our public libraries, to students in our academic libraries and our school libraries, and to learners everywhere, we're trying to figure out, what does it mean? How do we know that our work is effective? How do we measure students' digital literacy learning competencies? So I hope you'll be able to join us on December 11th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our next Google Hangout in this series of digital literacy conversations sponsored by the Task Force on Digital Literacy, the American Library Association, and the Office on Information Technology Policy. Let's give our participants a round of applause as we celebrate our successful Google Hangout. Ladies, will you please give yourselves a round of applause? Go ahead. There you go. Marika Visser, thank you for hosting this event tonight, and we'll say goodbye to all the people who joined us this evening, and we hope to see you again. Bye-bye.
Google effects.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Renee. That was fun. Nice to meet
everybody.
everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I didn't drop the F-bomb. I'm so proud. Oh, shoot. Are we all?
People in our
I think we're all
Thanks,
there.
everybody.